Hey everyone, so today is an interesting discussion point that I was going to introduce on my channel. It really does have to do with my project panning, using things up, minimalism, all of that mindset. And really what we're talking about is this super cool trend on YouTube that has come along in the last few years where people will do no buys or low buys. And right now I'm watching a couple of YouTubers, including Siren Wu, who had inspired me to go ahead and institute that sort of point in my life and to reevaluate what purchasing means for me, really, within the beauty little capsule world of YouTube. And what we're talking about here is, of course, like, you can't curb all purchasing. That's okay. I'm not necessarily hurting and wanting to cut out all expenses ever to ever have existed in my budget, and that's fine too. But I've been noticing that I have a lot of backups and a lot of things within the same category. Like, for instance, I have a lot of cleansers and several bottles of micellar water because I'd buy it mindlessly and I'd forget even what I own. And in the end, I end up with a backlog of products that just lay there and go bad. Um, and this is not all entirely about being budget conscious, although that is a very pleasant side effect and a very, very, very positive thing. And some of it definitely has to do with budget, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that I started feeling acute, very definite urge to reduce waste further in my life, in my possessions, etc. Generally, for instance, I'm pretty much there with my wardrobe. I don't have a lot of pieces of clothing that go unused. What I own, I mostly use. There's still, ways to improve my capsule wardrobe and to probably minimize things a little bit. But I'm on my way of being really quite happy with what I have and really being satisfied with what I own. And clothing shopping hasn't really been a thing for me anyway for about a couple of years. I've done minimal shopping for clothes, and what I have purchased mostly I have really enjoyed and have integrated into my wardrobe very successfully. So clothing isn't really my problem. Kitchenware, homeware isn't really my problem. I have still an issue with perfumes, but I found a way to still try things without buying full bottles of them, meaning that, buying smaller sizes of perfumes. So I think I'm on the right track there. And in terms of makeup, I've sort of cut down. I haven't really bought any makeup since the beginning of the year. And for perfume, I've purchased 3 small size fragrances, and these are from Pacifica. I really was curious about trying the brand. I had the Pacifica Island Vanilla, Pacifica Tahitian Gardenia, and Pacifica Indian Coconut Nectar. Otherwise, I've been pretty successful at curbing my spending on fragrances so far. I still have a lot to get through and a lot to review before I ever need to venture out and purchase another bottle. So I'm backing off there. It's too much. I have too many perfumes right now. I haven't counted them, but I don't want to go above maybe 25 to 50 really for all 4 seasons, but I have far more than that, several times over that amount. So I think I need to back off and chill out with fragrance purchases for now. I love experimenting, but I have tons to experiment with and tons of small sizes that I haven't even gotten to quite yet. So fragrances are a category that I have thought about, and I'm kind of happy with not where I am, but what I'm doing about it. And I have a plan. Makeup, I need to stop buying as well. I have quite a lot to get through, especially with cream products, especially with Clean Beauty, which I started purchasing about a year ago and now use a lot of Clean Beauty. And those products go bad faster. Think about a Bite Beauty lipstick. This is pretty mainstream, and we all know that those guys go bad so much faster than your regular YSL or MAC lipstick or Chanel lipstick. They do lack the preservatives in a way that makes them a little bit more clean, obviously, but a little bit less resilient in terms of time, in terms of how long they can survive without changing in texture, color, or consistency, or scent. So to me, it seems like it's not worth my while to purchase a ton of clean beauty, because it will just expire on me faster than conventional beauty would anyway. So I should probably do what I'm doing with my project panning, but reduce my collection to the size of 1 to 2 project pans and have that going. If I want clean beauty, I should probably just focus on that. I should stop eyeballing new releases in Sephora that aren't clean, because I do that a lot. And I enjoy eyeballing things. I haven't been purchasing very much, but it calls me. You have this new cool texture coming out from Dior, and it calls me. And it's sort of, I'm not going to be so strict with it, so that I don't allow myself any wiggle space within the conventional beauty realm. I don't think it's criminal to be purchasing from conventional beauty, because it's not an ethical choice for me. It's rather because I've seen clean beauty really, really improve over the last few years, and I think I can just transition to that segment of the market without depriving myself of quality, innovation, excellent formulations, longevity, and so on. I'm willing to compromise on shelf life, because clearly clean beauty will expire faster. It lacks the basic preservatives, unless it's like, you can have honey or something as a preservative, I suppose, in a way, because it's an antibacterial, antifungal agent. But other than natural sort of preservatives, if there is not a chemical, say paraben, to make things easier and keep longer, I'm not necessarily against these formulas anyway, but I just like to keep it as kosher as possible, basically, for my skincare and for my makeup. If I really love something from a non-clean brand, I will buy it. That's okay. However, for right now, I don't really see any gaps in my makeup collection. My makeup collection is extremely well-rounded and quite excessive for one person face. Now, if I had more than one head, more than one face, I could definitely make use of more makeup, but I only have one face, and this is what we're working with, and I certainly do not need an excess to the extent which I have it right now. Unnecessary, wasteful, and waste is something that's been bothering me recently. I've been kind of a stickler for waste. I don't like waste. Waste bothers me. I think it probably has always been within me somewhere, that little cringe when it comes to seeing something wasted. And I don't know where it comes from. I have not grown up in a particularly frugal household, nor am I naturally a particularly frugal person. I think I just like efficiency so much that seeing things go to waste bothers my inner sense of balance in the universe. So waste is something I'd like to avoid. That means that I need to buy less and use things up. And decluttering full-size products that I have barely touched is shameful a little bit to me. I feel a little ashamed of that. Although I like doing declutters and I like minimizing and keeping things together, I feel a little bit less ashamed, a little bit less guilty if I pass it on to somebody. In terms of fragrances, in terms of makeup, I feel a little bit better. I almost don't feel guilt, because I feel like, well, at least I've spent my money on it, and I don't feel guilty about having spent it because it's gone and I'm not missing it. But at least somebody will get some use out of it. So I feel a bit less guilty in that regard. But sometimes I use things and I don't use them up, and then they go bad, and then I have to toss them. That's when I feel shame and guilt, and I feel like I've made poor choices and I've made bad decisions, and I've wasted things, and that bothers me. So one of the strategies that I definitely need to employ is certainly cut things down. That will be achieved by somewhat by decluttering, and I want to declutter products while they're still good to go, so that somebody else might be able to spend some time with them, and it's not on me. The wastage is not on me. It's a little bit on me still. I know. But the idea is declutter things that are still good. Don't wait until they're expired. If I don't love them, let them go, because they will just expire, and then I definitely feel bad about wasting. And then Perhaps definitely cut down on the purchasing, because that will automatically cut down on the collection size. Use things up in terms of makeup. I have so much skincare. I won't need skincare probably for another year in most categories. I have serums coming out of my wazoo. I have cleansers up to here. You know, I'm swimming in cleanser. I have lots and lots of facial creams. I'll probably need some peels. I have masks, tons of masks that may go bad, so I need to actually get through my masks and see which ones I'm more likely to use and which ones I can pass on to somebody who might be willing to use them. And I'm passing things on to friends and family. My mom is really into skincare, so probably skincare will go to her for sure. Makeup will probably go to some girlfriends of mine. So the idea is really to get to a place where I'm only buying things that I need to be buying, to avoid that horrible feeling of, oh my goodness, you're so excessive. Oh my goodness, you're wasting things. Oh my goodness, why are you doing this to yourself and to the environment and to your wallet? And it's just waste, and I want to avoid it. I have had some encounters at work that were a little bit weird. For example, funny story, I was doing some small procedures, some excisions, skin excisions today, and the sterile draping cloths that we use to create a sterile field in the place that I work at are actually just go to the garbage after you're done. And in my mind, I just had that flicker of frustration, like, well, why are you throwing out a perfectly good draping cloth? Why can't we recycle it? Or why can't we reuse it? We have an autoclave. We can autoclave it and sterilize it. And I do know of places that sterilize their towels and perhaps maybe use them other places in clinic, not necessarily for a sterile procedure, for which you probably need something assuredly sterile. But for instance, using them in the clinic for patients after examination, maybe they need to wipe something or whatever, wipe off the gel from ultrasound, those sorts of things. Why can't we just then use these cloths that we're getting rid of anyway, that are identical to the ones we use for other purposes, clean them and use them? Because why not clean things and reuse them? So I had this whole story and plan unfolding in my brain of how wasteful it was to throw cloths or actually those are draping towels. If you've seen any shows, those green draping towels that you can use for small spaces on the body. That's what I'm talking about. And they're good quality towels, and you just sort of use them once. And oftentimes we don't even use up the whole pack that we open for a procedure. And then we just, we throw them away. And why can't we then take them and wash them like we wash anything in the clinic, and use them for maybe not sterile procedures, although you could autoclave and completely sterilize them and use them again. But even for regular day-to-day clinic things, why can't we? This frustrated me, and I spent literally 10 minutes just contemplating it in my brain and being frustrated by the waste and complaining about it to the nurse. And she probably thought I was crazy, because nobody gives this sort of thing a second thought. So that's how much my mind has been on wastage and trying to maybe buy things with less packaging if I can. I'm not zero waste, but I do like the idea of reducing the waste in the kitchen as well. We do compost basically everything we can compost. Everything that is compostable goes into compost, because we do make our own compost for the house, for the garden that's coming up, and for the lawn. So, I think my mindset had really clicked around. There was a few notches that went click, 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 and I'm starting to see waste more. I'm starting to watch waste, and I'm starting to see it and notice it. Before, I don't think I noticed waste very much. And now I think I do. I think waste is important to me now, or lack of waste is important to me now. In general, I'd like to have lack of waste everywhere, if you can swing it. But right now, I think I should just start with my beauty stash. And obviously, those crazy thoughts about clinics, they're run a certain way for a certain reason. And, in my mind, I think my mind had just ran away from me today, because my mind has been noticing these inefficiencies in general in my own life and household. So when I opened my own clinic this summer, I think I'm going to try to make it pretty efficient just because my brain has just completely switched into this mindset where I notice and take note of inefficiencies and waste, and it bothers me tremendously. Do you have the same thing going on in your brain? Because I don't know whether that is something that everybody clicks and notices. Is everybody clocking the waste? For me, this is fairly recent, maybe in the last 3-4 months or so. I'm starting to think twice about throwing things away. Can I reuse it in some other way? I start thinking about like worn out t-shirts being rags, and this is not surprising to anybody. This is what people do all the time. This is not new. It's just new to me, because to me it's like, well, a kitchen rug should be a microfiber, specific size specifications, cloth with edges that are finished in a specific way, and that is what a cloth is, a kitchen cloth. And now I'm like, well, why am I wasting all this fabric? I'm just throwing away a t-shirt which is a little bit worn at the arms or armpits, but maybe I can use the back of it for a cloth. Like it's starting to like weirdly go on a repeat in my brain. I don't think that this has ever been me or what I have thought about or what I had paid attention to, and now I do. So beauty stash, perfume stash, and I'm not against buying. Again, my low buy is going to only be reflecting the fact that I don't need anything right now. I have too much stuff to get through anyway, so I don't need anything. When I need something, I shall purchase it, and I will report to you how my no buy / low buy is progressing. I have only bought 3 perfumes, and that's it from any kind of cosmetics standpoint this year. And these 3 little ones I will be using, and I'll tell you about them. I'm sure you might be interested because, you know, cleaner perfume brand and all of that. So I'll definitely go that way. I'll link down below my playlist for fragrance reviews in general if you're interested, and my makeup playlist as well. So in all, going in a no buy, low buy, and I have been since the beginning of the year, but I was a little hesitant to sort of announce it and talk about it because I didn't know if I was going to take it seriously. But since that little click in my mind at the end of last year towards trying to be, or not trying to be, towards noticing waste and trying to avoid it if I can, that's new. And I think that's what's driving my low buy, no buy sort of situation. It's mostly because I look at what I have and it seems super wasteful to purchase. So I'll tell you how I'm doing. I'll tell you if I buy anything and why, if I replace anything and why, if I declutter anything and why. So all of that is going to be part of this approach to, and my approach to no buy, low buy is going to be fairly lax, I think. I'm not experiencing, you know, since last year when I really stopped generally buying things, mostly, I'm not really experiencing any withdrawal symptoms. I'm not experiencing any cravings for purchases. I'm not experiencing any kind of shopping shopping shortage. Obviously, my brain loves the little dopamine shot that you get when you buy things. I love shopping. I do like it. It is something that I enjoy, not particularly clothes shopping, but makeup shopping or skincare shopping or hair care shopping even occasionally. I love it. It's really fun for me. And I do notice the lack of shopping, and do notice the lack of that little tinge of satisfaction from shopping. I notice it. But I notice it, and then I look at what it is that I'm craving to buy, and then I think to myself, do I have something similar? And I usually do. So far, I haven't come across anything that I'd be like, yes, I need that, and snappity snap right now because I'm lacking this in my routine, or I'm lacking this in my life. I haven't felt that at all. So I think I'm rationalizing well. I think my brain is not being too derailed by these urges to shop. And I get those urges mostly when I know exactly when I get the urge to shop. It's a very interesting thing. I was thinking about it the other day and like, why do you have this want, this need for something, this need to buy something, this dopamine little hit of dopamine. which only lasts about 30 minutes, really, realistically, no longer than that. And then you're left on the roadside by your desire to buy, and with significantly less money in your pocket. And that's about it. And it doesn't really last, and it doesn't really give you any kind of lasting satisfaction. Certainly doesn't make you feel any better in the long term. If anything, it makes you feel worse if you're over purchasing. At least that's true for me. So when I was trying to digest the idea of why it was that I was craving this hit of dopamine, that little buying high, I think the situations where I am in that mind space where I need that little hit of something, something I purchased, has to do not usually with anxiety, not usually with feeling sad, but for me, it's a self-reward. Usually I have this little tinge inside of me, little claw. I need something. I need to reward myself, mostly after I do something that I don't really want to do, or I do something hard and difficult and I complete it, and I feel like rewarding myself because I just went through, I resentfully went through something I didn't want to do. It can be anything from I'm seeing this patient who always takes up too long and has a personality disorder and is very difficult to deal with, for instance. I know that this is like at the end of the day, this is how my day is going to end, and I usually schedule those sorts of patients at the end of the day so it doesn't interfere with me seeing patients throughout the day. Kind of don't want to punish other people because this particular patient is difficult for me to deal with, so it's not other patients' fault. They don't have to wait too long. So if I schedule that sort of an appointment at the end of the day, by the end of the day, I just feel like I just did something that I really didn't feel like doing. And I did a good job and good for me. And I got through it, and I deserve a treat. I deserve something nice. And I deserve to buy something. And that's when I get that little hit because I'm a little resentful about whatever, or I had to go to a meeting I never really wanted to attend and it's very boring, and I feel like I wasted my evening on something and I'd rather do something else. Anytime that I feel like I'd rather do something else, but I make myself do that thing that I don't want to do, that's when I'm most vulnerable to purchasing, because this is the time where I sit down and say, okay, you did a good job and you deserve something. And that you deserve it sort of mentality is really rather toxic, because this is part of life. Going through unpleasant experiences or experiences you don't necessarily want to go through is part of life, and that's normal. Life is not necessarily supposed to be all pleasant all the time. It would be crazy to assume that it can be, because if that's what your expectation is, you are going to be sorely disappointed. And so, creating those types of rewards for reasons unknown or for reasons that don't exist, meaning that, well, this is a regular unpleasantry that you have to deal with because you're breathing or you're alive, and that's just something that you need to do. This shouldn't create such a resentment inside of me for me to want to try and put that band-aid of buying something or treating myself in some way. Why do I need those band-aids? Maybe my attitude is wrong. Maybe my attitude is wrong towards these experiences that I deem unpleasant, and I just need to look at them differently. Certain experiences you can avoid and just say, like, I don't want to do something I feel like is a waste of my life, obviously. But certain things, everybody's job, not just my job, and, it would be crazy to assume that everybody loves their job all the time. That is insane. Nobody does. But you should overall enjoy what you do, which I do. But certain encounters are going to be challenging, and sometimes those challenges are unpleasant, and that's okay. And that should be okay. And, I shouldn't be taking that personally as like a personal attack on me, because it has nothing to do with me. It would be a difficult encounter with any clinician. It would be a difficult thing to do for anybody to sit through a particular meeting that is very boring and you don't feel like you should be there. It's just part of life, and one should accept it as a cost of doing business, business of life. It's just what it is. And you can avoid certain things and you can't avoid other things, and things that you cannot avoid but don't want to do, one should just accept in a stoic manner of, oh, well, that's okay. And it has nothing to do with me, and it's not a personal thing, and you shouldn't make it all about you. As an example, of course, I'm going back to this, but it can be anything. Like that patient and their problems and their psychological issues, like for example, if you're seeing a borderline, they're notoriously difficult to deal with, and that's okay. That's the pathology that they present with, and that's fine. And it's just like any other illness, and it's not personal. It's not me. It's nothing to do with me. It's not a personal thing. So being able to put that across as in, I'm here to help you with your problem, but I understand that your problem is not a personal attack on my psychological well-being, that needs to happen better in my case, because I try to give my patients all I have, and sometimes that feels depleting. So I guess where I'm going with this is my want for buying something might just be the fact that I feel depleted and I need to replenish myself and my well-being. And buying stuff is not the way to go, because it does not actually do that. It doesn't work. It doesn't help you feel better or help you feel more full. Maybe a good sleep would, and an interaction with somebody who might not be draining could, but buying a thing won't. And I know that it won't, but that little druggy hit of dopamine, I just need a little something, that is what I need to avoid. That is where I'm most vulnerable, when I feel depleted, or when I feel like I gave up my time or energy, and I don't feel immediately or necessarily that it's personally gratifying. But a lot of things in life are not going to be gratifying, and again, that's all right. I just need to come to a place in my head where that's all right, A, and B, where those things don't personally offend my sensibility and sense of well-being, because ultimately have nothing to do with me personally. Again, we've spoken about this. So, no buy, low buy, mostly because I already have stuff. No buy because I want to get out of the mentality of treating myself after unpleasantries, or treating myself for something that is a regular everyday thing, and I should really not need a crutch, this purchasing crutch. I really shouldn't need it for basic things like having a bad day at work, for instance. It really shouldn't be required that I go and treat myself to something immediately, or those replenishing activities can be much more effective than going shopping, really, truthfully, and much better for me, much better for the family's finances, obviously, but much better for me as an individual at the very basic level as well. And the no buy is going to be kind of a lesson to me, and I want to share it with you guys, in what you actually use, and purposeful, thoughtful purchasing. And I don't see myself having to buy stuff for a really long time. I do want to share with you also the things that I do want but don't need, maybe wish lists and so on. And I do plan to film a separate video about Sephora VIB, sort of outlining how I feel about Sephora VIB, because usually I sit there and wait for Sephora VIB. I'm excited about it and I do a haul. And I'm thinking I need to change my mentality about that. In the spirit of what we're talking about today, I will be sharing in a separate video what I'm thinking about this year with regards to VIB Rouge haul that I normally do. And I've been VIB Rouge for like a decade, or however long they had the program, I don't even know. As long as I remember shopping at Sephora. That's problematic, right? So look out for that video. I'll link a couple of fun things below so you can look at my playlists and see if there's anything that interests you. I'll link a minimalism playlist as well, because that topic ties into this one. And tell me down below if you're on a low buy or a no buy, and what are your triggers? Why do you buy? Why do you purchase? What is your kryptonite? What are the emotions that you're trying to satisfy when you're buying? I'm always curious. I've told you about mine. You tell me about yours. Also, how successful are you with your no buy, low buy so far? And let's keep it honest, because listen, if I screw up, I'm going to share that for sure. It's going to be going to be only fair, and will also keep me accountable and perhaps shame me into not doing it again. So that's it for today. I hope it was fun for you to listen to my random-ish thoughts, no script kind of thoughts about low buy, no buy, and what my kryptonite is. That's it for today, guys. See you later. Have a good day and good luck. Bye.